like a refrigerator here if we can. You're the chairman now. Get the refrigerator here.
If I get you a cooler, put some ice.
All right.
That's it, good. Tyler gonna be here tonight. You ready?
You ready, Kev?
Good evening. We'd like to welcome everyone this evening to the Richmond Planning and Zoning meeting. Clerk, you call the roll, please.
Sure. Wow, okay. Commissioner DeGrant? Commissioner Francis is not here. Commissioner Short?
Here.
Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Miles? Here. Commissioner Estelle?
Here.
Okay.
Next on the agenda, if everyone's had time to look over the approval of the April 16th meeting. And if so, I'll get a motion on that, please.
I make a motion, we approve the April 16, 2025 meeting minutes.
Second.
Commissioner Short?
Abstain.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles?
Yes.
Commissioner Estelle?
Yes. Next will be the approval of the May 14th meeting, the minutes of it. If everyone's had enough time to look over those, I'll get for approval of that, please. Motion on that, please.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Second.
Commissioner Short?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles?
Yes.
Commissioner Estelle?
Yes. Next on the agenda is the request for zone map amendments at 324 East Irvin Street, currently zone B2, proposed zone R3.
Mr. Stone, if you can help me pull up the map, please.
Sure. Start knocking one of these quickly.
Corey Isaacs on behalf of Isaacs Law Office, 218 West Main Street. I'm here on behalf of my client who is sitting behind me, the young man behind me. This is a really good one. It's a scenario that has been vacant for my life, to whatever extent that matters. However, in the event that a zone change is granted, it's going to be good for Richmond. We're looking at 324 East Irvin Street. As he pulls it up. Mr. Stone, can you do a better job for me, please?
Apparently not. I can do your math.
There we go. Bingo.
322, right?
4.
324.
324. Don't mind to zoom in. There we go. So this is a vacant property. It's been vacant to the extent that I'm aware of. However, across the street and diagonally and across, we do have multifamily. So you got to the south, you got multifamily B1 and R1C. To the east, it's B2. To the west, multifamily B2 as well. And if you don't care to zoom in a little bit for me, please. All right, so the vacant property kind of meanders back to those three, right? However, go across the street, the larger portion, as I go around, the larger portion here, it's a multiplex, right? Then we also have a multiplex here, which is an adjacent property. This is also rental property. No, I'm sorry, I don't want to misspeak. This is a single family. However, this is, from my understanding, multifamily. And it's this property here. We're asking, quite simply, that it be zoned to allow for multifamily use. I believe that it's quite obvious that there's a need for multifamily. This area within itself has serviced the people of Richmond with multifamily use for many, many years. And I think the vacancy of this property, it's been almost abandoned. However, my client wishes to turn it into multifamily with multiple interests off Hill Street and Irvin, the issue of traffic flow will be nominal. We've got 2 entrances. The size of the property is adequate. We have every utility that everybody else has in that area, which is the only utilities that we need. And this area in particular is all residential. It's not appropriate for the use of industrial or the use of commercial. It's all houses. People live there. I'm quite simply asking you to allow for other people to live there. And to be quite honest, I don't have a big spiel today. You know, normally I come before you and I offer you a bunch of proof and this, that, and the other. Here, it's appropriate for residential use. If you go back in time, there was a conditional use permit issued for single-family residence. So, but that's expired now. However, it is part of the chain of ownership of this property. So at one point in time, there was somebody or a commission that said, yeah, people need to live there. However, it was just for single-family use. I'm asking for multifamily use. I'm tickled to death to answer any questions, and my client's here, and he's young, he's a young man, and he's willing to answer any questions, and he's gonna adopt all my testimony as well.
So you say that you're gonna have interest off of Hill Street?
There'll be both. There'll be an exit on Hill and East Irvin, which complies with the comprehensive plan that wishes to dedicate for entrance and exits multi. That's it. So it does comply with that.
Well, the reason why I asked,
And it would go before that was allowed.
I know the area just like the back of my hand very well.
Mhm.
My only concern would be exit on the Hill Street.
And you would get a chance to deny that in the event that this permit.
No, I'm just saying that's the question because that's awful narrow back on Hill Street. I mean,
Agreed.
and to turn either right or left, it'll be awful hard to turn to go either way, coming off of there, where that property's at. For exit back in that area right there.
And the scenario here is, in my mind, quite simple. The only people that would come there would be the people that live there, right?
Yeah,
Why else would you do it?
I don't know that.
Well, none of
But
us.
I'm not, but what I'm saying is to exit onto Hill Street. That road there
You don't like that?
is narrow. It's very narrow there.
Well, what about the exit on Urban?
Urban would be fine, but have you been on Hill Street back where it's at?
I know it.
It's narrow. It's very narrow to come
It
off
is.
of Hill Street.
And that's not denied at all. However, at this point, the question is, can I build multifamily there? Then we'll come back to you and ask if we can put an exit there, right? And I don't mind showing this if I may approach.
Yeah.
So we got a single building. That's our plan.
Just one building.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was my next question.
One building. Yes, sir. It's. I'm trying. Thank you, man. So that's what we're talking about. And in the event that it's not proper to have 2, well then you get a chance to do that. However, before I get there, I gotta come here. And procedure is extraordinarily important, and that's why we're here. I gotta come ask you first. Then I will show where the bushes go. You know, where the curb is. Right? On the back end of that, what we've shown you, it's surrounded by residential. There's no commercial there. And I don't think that can be denied. That's not a commercial area. Period. think, quite frankly, that this should have been done years ago. But it's been vacant.
Well, let me say this. I know for a fact there was business there.
Well, sir.
Well, I'm just saying, you know.
You
Mr.
outlived me,
Commer-
man. I don't know
Well,
that before 1988.
I can't sit here and not say nothing, me knowing
Before
that what was
1988,
there.
that's the year I was
But
born,
there
that's
was,
not
in
there.
fact, there was an Elks Club there.
And was it a good thing?
Oh, yeah.
Well, for some it might
Oh,
be.
yeah.
I don't know about for everybody, but I do know that there was a business there on that very lot right there. I'm just saying, but you know, to
Fair.
say that it wasn't, but I'm
Absolutely.
just saying that there was one
I
there.
can only tell you what I know, and
Yeah,
I was born in 1988, and I got dropped off at the YMCA every day after school. And I can promise you, we went that way, and in my memory, there's never been anything there. However, our comprehensive plan dictates that we want the property to be used, right? And right now, there's no commercial use of that area. There's none.
To change the subject to something else. On this drawing, I don't see where the entrance is onto Urban Street. Am I just missing
not
it on
any.
that?
There's not any
he just
on
come
that
for the
entrance.
Zoom.
There's not any, but that's besides the point.
Well, I was just curious. I mean, since he
gonna
had
have
it
to
here, and he
close
had the way,
around.
has the way the building sits, there's no way to get around that building to put in a drive.
So my
Right.
client has to pay for this, and we'll pay more in the event that it's granted.
Yeah, you just-
However, we didn't fuss about it because there was no entrance. There will be an entrance off.
So, like you said, we will revisit this again. So,
Exactly,
yeah.
and that's what.
I was just curious, the way I was just looking at that, since you gave it to us, that's.
Quite frankly, the architect was friendly with us and helped us give this to present to you. And we didn't have to pay for it. We're gonna have to pay for the next one and all the other things that accompany it.
Does anybody else have any?
The scenario here, though, with the multifamily down here and there, it meets what the comprehensive plan tells us to. And to be honest with you, there's not a commercial use that's gonna occur here.
Okay.
It's not, and it should be. It should be. You should live next to other folks. You should know your neighbor.
Kevin, you got anything?
Just some points or comments for you guys to consider. It is a challenging area. It's Zone B2. We have single family, we have multifamily, and we have a different zone that contests each other. I'll leave that decision up to this board. However, I would like to remind you that the property immediately and adjoining to the north was denied single-family residence due to it being a B2, and they were not able to build a house. So that came before this body as well, not too awful long ago, by Mr. Howard Miller. So he was not able to do that and was denied. So
May I ask which properties?
it's the property adjoining you immediately to the north.
Can you point it out for me?
Yeah. Yep.
That right there.
Is that,
He currently had to turn in a development plan not for single-family residential. It is now being a counseling service that'll be soon to be constructed. If I'm not mistaken, probably it'll begin in the next couple of weeks.
'Cause
ultimately, what do you want me to use it for? It's too big for a single house. Nobody wants to mow that much of a yard. Our property isn't going away. It's an absolute scenario that property will be used. This property in particular is too big for one house. Allow me to put affordable housing in a scenario.
And I'm not here to justify which
No.
way this vote will go. I'm just reiterating what this body has voted on in the past. But this particular house right here, it has, it looks a little different than what the PVA shows, which is something people have to deal with. But it was cut out this way and back down and in and around that house. So there was a lot created right here. And that created in itself a problem because when they came forth, and if it was just going to be a residential home, that probably would have worked out. But it did not work out because the zone stayed intact ultimately. So then this had to become a site development plan, which brought a great many issues with its development. But needless to say, Mr. Miller is moving forward with counseling service. So I'm only bringing that to light here tonight because it does touch the property in question. And I just want to make
be
sure you
clear,
guys
When you
understand.
said that Mr. Miller's bringing it forward, he's the one building it, correct? And has pulled, or attempted to pull permits to do so?
He is.
Therefore, the neighbor agrees, and the neighbor, I don't think, is here to make or voice any complaint. Is that true?
I'm not understanding, Corey. A
I don't-
complaint.
The neighbor, the one where the counseling center's gonna go,
Mhm.
he has not voiced any complaint to you.
No, it's his sister.
Who?
It's his sister.
Has she voiced complaints?
No.
I don't think anybody's complaining about what we're asking to do. And I think it makes a whole lot of sense to use land, especially the land that is close to the city. This is a big old lot. Nobody builds a single-family house on that size of lot downtown.
Well, let me just say this, and I should have said at the beginning, that this is a public hearing. And there might be somebody else in here that might know or say if they've got anything after you are through, then we'll, if they've got something else to say, yay or nay, they can come forward.
Okay.
So, we ready to vote on it?
No. We need to ask the public.
Well, the public
I mean,
hearing, is
anybody
anybody here? There's nobody here.
Duplexes would be more appropriate, probably.
Duplexes are within my requested change.
It would be
With
better.
them what?
to
Excuse me?
A duplex would be within my requested change.
Yes.
Yeah. What happens eventually, y'all gonna get a chance to say yeah or nay to that regardless, right? When the plan comes for you, I'm at step one. Step one, allow me to have the idea to
Yeah,
present
but once
to
we
you.
put R3, then it's gonna be an apartment, more than likely. You can do duplexes, but it's more than likely gonna be an apartment. So the question is whether to, do our duplexes more appropriate next to a single-family home and right across from apartments?
Right across from apartments, across the street, and fair?
Yes.
Okay.
But he's just asking that it would be better, we'd
Would it
like to
be?
see
I don't know.
duplexes rather
That's
than
up for you
apartments.
guys. I don't get a chance to argue that. I have the opportunity to advocate for my client.
Okay.
And he wants to do something with a vacant piece of property. And I think, especially, I think the city just adopted an ordinance that said vacant buildings, we're gonna tax you, right? Downtown, the city just adopted that. That, in my mind, tells me vacant property's bad. Let's do something with it. He's got an idea, he wants to. He's here asking you for your permission.
We understand that,
Yeah,
but what I'm saying is duplex would probably be a little bit better to have there.
so that,
That's y'all's call. I
Okay.
don't get a chance to say much when you tell me what your opinion is. However, I do ask that the proposed change be adopted, then tell them no. Fair? Once the zone change occurs, I gotta come back and ask permission again before I break ground.
Once we do the zone change, you can put anything you want there.
You still have to approve the plan?
No, you got an R3, you got an R3. You can put anything, you can put a apartment, you can put a duplex, or you can put an R1 there. You do not have to ask us. You can just show us the plat.
I'd be tickled to death for whatever you all grant. In the event that it's duplex only, okay. However, I'd rather have the opportunity to do multifamily. It helps with parking, by the way. When you have duplexes, you gotta have more space for parking. We get less duplexes due to parking. And ultimately, if you say duplex is okay, fair, that means it's not commercial. And that's the finding of fact that I would request that be made. It's not commercial. Then you guys get a chance to tell me whether it's R1, R2, or R3.
Kevin, you got any more to say on?
I think tonight our decision is one, if we're entertaining duplexes, we need to amend the application. And I think we can do that here tonight by amending it from an R3 to an R2 if you so choose. Again, I think we're here tonight basically to understand whether or not we're going to surrender a B2 to an R1, or I'm sorry, an R2 or an R3. That's essentially the question.
It's an R3 though, that's what is proposed, yeah.
It's proposed now as an R3.
R3.
And, technically, we don't have R3 there. It is all B2 or R1s. Every apartment there is there in pre-existence. So R3 doesn't exist there. And if you do an R3, one might consider spot zoning. You might not under this situation, being that it's entirely surrounded by a physical being of R3. So the decision is a tough one, but I think if we look at it in simplicity, it's whether or not you want to get rid of a B2 to a residential type, and if so, that's perfectly fine. And I would essentially leave it at that. You almost have to start crossing out some things and look at the root of the situation. If not, you'll become clouded with all the physical features of this area. So that would be my only statement in conclusion.
And that is a single-family home to the north that touches it, is that correct?
It was. Now it is a approved development plan for a counseling service that is a portion of that tract to the north. So you're going to get a counseling service facility, then the house you see on your map. The property that's been cut out is not shown yet on the maps because it's so new.
And if I may? So, my client, the owner of this tract, also owns this subject to a foreclosure action. That foreclosure action, the bank that foreclosed on it messed it up, didn't name all the errors. So right now, my office has filed exceptions to the foreclosure saying that the master commissioner cannot convey fee simple title to my client, which would extend this up and over. They can't do it because the bank messed it up. Ultimately, the bank's gonna fix it. It's just, there's a process to where heirs of unknown decedents, it takes 90 days. And he's got a contract on this place, and we got a 60-day window. Either that or he loses 10 grand. That window won't allow me to tell you that he is the owner of this tract yet. Ultimately, he's already given the money to the master commissioner to buy it. So the other tracts there on Hill Street, he will ultimately own, so long as the procedural process for those unknown heirs is completed. The bank is working on that, period. So these up here, and I'm looking here and here, ultimately, they will be his. However, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and tell you that, hey, he owns it, but he will, so long as the bank does the right thing. It's a circuit court action before Judge Ward right now.
So
He's
you're talking
invested
about
into
those
this area.
two
Yeah.
right behind his?
Correct. And there's the, yeah, he goes all the way to Hill Street. If you look, give me a second.
But we're just talking about that one up here on Irvin, right?
Right. There. So the two little green lots that you're seeing here, these two,
Yeah,
it's already part of the plat. He owns those. Agreed. The next one, this one is the one that's in circuit court. If you look at the drawing, this is an edge. This is me showing you what our plan is. Nothing's in stone, but the document that you all received earlier, that, it includes that. However, these two, part of this, that one is the one that's stuck in circuit court because the bank messed up.
yeah, but the only ones we talking about is on Irvin Street, right?
No, it connects, these connect, it's
But-
all one.
Yes, Doc, yes. The only ones that you were talking about.
That's the only one we talking about developing, is that one right there. That's what I was talking about.
And my client wishes to talk to y'all, if that's okay.
Sure.
Go ahead.
You wanna
Yeah, your name?
swear him in?
No, just give his name.
Dawson Miller. I just want to make another couple things. So the counseling center that Mr. Miller's building, I'm actually the builder on that project. Mr. Miller and I have spoken about the plans for the R3 change. We've went over that. He's perfectly fine with everything we discussed. That lot, just to be honest with you guys, is entirely too big to put duplexes on. I'm spending way too much money to buy an acre of land to put, two duplexes on. Per the city's comprehensive plan, you can get 14.28 acres, or units per acre. So, as of right now, we have enough land, if this was to get approved, we could do 13 units on that tract of land. So as far as a duplex idea, I'd rather just either get the R3 approval completed, or, if you guys wish to leave it B2, that would be up to your decision. But as far as an R2 zoning to do duplexes, that's way too expensive and way too large of a piece of property to do that. So just want to let you guys know, and as well about the counseling center.
This is G in Michigan. There's a cost with everything we do.
And I think Corey had said earlier, we have a contract on this property. There is some money that's already been put down, non-refundable.
He's gonna lose 10 grand.
I
That's
would,
what
I
he's
would
trying to
rather,
avoid.
I would rather, the reason in doing that was to get through this commission, see what the ruling was. Again, I would rather lose that than spend entirely too much to get a lot less done on that property.
Okay. Well, we're just talking about on Irvin Street. That's all we concerned about on that right now. Kevin, you got any more before we get a motion on this?
No, sir.
I get a motion on this, please?
I'll make a motion, we approve the request for the zone map amendment at 324 East Irvin Street, current zone B2, proposed zone R3.
Second.
I'll second.
So the motion is to approve, correct?
Or
The motion would be to approve?
to
Okay.
approve it, yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
No.
Commissioner Miles,
Yes.
yes, or,
Yes.
okay, and Commissioner Estelle?
Yes.
Okay, thanks so much.
Mr. Harris, thank y'all very much for your time. I always give you guys a hard time. It's never easy, but I'm extremely grateful for the amount of thought that you guys put into all your decisions. It matters. Thank y'all very much.
Next on the agenda is discussion concerning subdivision regulations for homeowners association, green space requirements, and recreational areas.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll take this one. I guess in lieu of our lengthy work session, what you have before you tonight is section 2.20 and 2.30 of the Recreation and Landscape Manual. In short, what that says is, states the requirements for green space, open space, and recreational space associated with single-family and two-family developments. In short, if we strike that particular section that is highlighted, what that would do, in my plan review, is that it would eliminate the need for those particular developments to not have to put those in. Now, when you do not have to put those in, then I would require green space to not be there. So lots and things of that nature would be extended to meet rear property lines, things of that nature would meet each other. The other one you have, I believe, is Chapter 7 of our storm manual. In there is the section that you'll see highlighted that states that all detention areas must be on their own separate tract. If you were to strike that particular statement from the regulations, then that means not only does green space go away, the lot in question for some of our larger detention areas, which brings about somewhat the same problem of maintenance, is that detention area will be shared amongst whatever properties encompass it. So most of the time you're going to see these shared by rear lots. Most of these things, let's face it, are designed in the hollows and the valleys and things of that nature, and usually that's where your rear property lines go. On some occasions, you might see a detention pond just on two lots, or heck, maybe even one. We showed you plenty of examples of those detention areas and where they exist and their ages and where we've transgressed or degressed, however how you'd like, to today. So this would be in light of only eliminating the issue of maintenance of these large open areas. It does not affect any HOA regulation. It does not manipulate it. It does not say you can or cannot have one. It only affects that we utilize that space and that it can't be on its own entity, that is owned individually by the landowners out there. And so your HOAs then would fall back on what they want the buildings to look like, whether or not you want fences, who maintains the sign at the front of the subdivision. These things should be in hopefully easily maintained by an HOA. But when you get into these larger 40, 50, heck, I've even seen 80 some acres of green space in subdivisions, that's a massive undertaking. And, you know, in light of looking at that, if we reduce the recreation requirement, that's a whole nother animal from green space. You're going to be saving land for development. I think the idea is that if you're in a residential subdivision, most of the time you're going to utilize recreation in your own yard. And it could be taking a hardship off of developers, and it most certainly would take off a hardship for HOAs, expenses in that HOA cost for some of these folks. Some examples were $20,000 a year to mow 3 or 4 acres. If you eliminate these things, then not only are you getting this domino effect, you're going to see a repercussion of items that people can save a little money. But again, to reiterate, what you have before you today would be all I need to strike from the storm manual and the recreation and landscape manual to initiate that process. And what we would do then, anywhere else that it is referred to from these sections, we would clean those sections up as well so that it somewhat disappears. Keep in mind, R3 developments still apply. Those recreation requirements would still be in effect. The only thing we're striking out is single-family and R2 subdivisions and developments.
Any discussion?
Mr. Estelle, this was what Mr. Mandel was talking to you about earlier. About
We gonna
speaking.
vote on that? We gonna vote?
Yes, this is what he asked you about speaking about earlier.
Do what now?
This is what he confirmed with you about speaking about earlier.
Okay, but we're gonna need it so we can vote on it. Does he need to do it now? Does he need to?
That's up to you, whether it should be now or the business, or it's up to you. It's just that Mr. Mandel had requested to give some comment.
Well, we could go on and vote on it, and then we can hear you.
Well, actually, wouldn't we handle this the same way we just handled the zone change? That if the committee wanted to ask questions or have a question, wouldn't we want to do that before a vote?
It's not a zone change. It's not a public hearing.
Yeah, but that's just a principle of.
It's an ordinance, no, it's an ordinance change. It's an ordinance change. It's not a public hearing.
On the agenda, it was listed as a discussion, not a decision.
Yeah, you can have discussion if you want to.
So, is that okay?
Discussion, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
You want to do it, Mike?
yes.
yes. Your name, please, too.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate the opportunity. I know you heard me too much in last week's meeting, but that was for a different topic. But I do appreciate the chances to be here. As you may remember, and for anyone listening that's not up to speed, this issue came out of our subdivision, and we brought it to the city when our developer left the care and maintenance of these areas in our subdivision. So we do appreciate you discussing this and thinking about it and considering it. The basics were that we found out that our common area, specifically detention areas, which are designed to handle stormwater for obvious reasons, our developer ceased mowing those, and they started growing up crazily. We asked the city to contact them because they
This really has nothing to do with your problem.
it actually does.
No, it does not. Your problem is already resolved,
Right, okay, I was just saying here, this,
and that's what we're trying to
this
do now.
solution was a response to what happened.
It was,
To eliminate it in the future.
it was. It was part of
Yeah,
that,
so I'm
and
not,
other people too.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is move on, your issue was your issue, but this is for the future. Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, that's, what is there to discuss? I mean, you know,
Okay.
we can't discuss your problem, because your problem's,
And I'm not here to discuss my problem, yeah, I
Okay.
had some.
you
but,
can make
so-
comments about it.
That's what we're going for, and we had a few questions. So basically, as I understand the bulk of this, is we are now, from R1 and R2, we will be removing the common area space and detention areas as separate entities from the lots that will be owned by homeowners. And instead, we are extending the homeowner lots into what used to be the owned separate detention areas. In a nutshell, does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's exactly my questions. So here are some questions we came up with. And this is a combination of talking to people. I also put this out on Facebook today. We got 30 comments from people and questions. And I thought this would be a chance for you to consider these, for Ken to share his expertise. Kevin, I'm sorry. Ken. Yeah, I'm just having a brain freeze. Thank you very much. Sorry. To share his expertise and also just to consider these issues before we make a decision. So the first one is, as the development is being built, before homeowners buy the lots, who is responsible for grading it, preparing it, and then maintaining it until the lots are bought? The developers will be. Okay. So the next question would be, so let's say we have 8 lots kind of lined up there, okay? Detention areas behind all 8 of them. And let's say you have, those aren't sold all together at one time. Someone buys one, someone buys the next one. And a lot of these, like the new development that I represent for Old Town Branch, they suggest that development will take about 10 years to completely build out. So we've all seen neighborhoods, they don't get built all at once, they built at time. So my question is, what happens if someone buys lot 1 and someone else buys lot 8, okay? And that would mean the developer's responsible for maintaining the area from lot 2 through lot 7. But since their lot will go all the way back in some cases to those areas where there was a tree line that he pointed out at our work session, would the new owners be required to let commercial equipment come across their property? Because there wouldn't be any other way to get to it. How would that work?
Well, what you're referring to is that the development is incomplete. Before we issue a final plat, it goes through a punch list in which we make sure all final grade, slopes, the right-of-way, things of that nature are stabilized and grading is done. Therefore, utilities are already ran, electric, sewer, water. We have grading plans with contours, you name it. We have some that will tell us limits of disturbance, in which will be highlighted, in which you can't put a bulldozer in during the course of that development. These things are monitored, they're inspected, and once they get ready to sell to the public, they must first pass that completion inspection. So we're going to check for all of these bells and whistles, and once they do, they have to put up a letter of credit, and then at that time, we will only allow them to have a final plat. So through that process, that shouldn't happen. I can't imagine having lot 1 and 8 be completely finished, and they have not done any grade work on lot 2 through 7. That we wouldn't allow that.
So I understand. So yeah, I wasn't as clear. My point was, let's say they get the grade work done, is the new homeowners, will they be responsible for seeding that, or will that be part of what the developer is responsible for?
Developers, we require them to mostly seed and straw along right-of-ways to help utilities where they've been installed. Any slopes that I get, 3-to-1, 2-to-1s, I require that all of these areas be stabilized or signed off by Geotech. In any fashion, if we see anything that has erosion possibilities during the course of the development, we will monitor it closely. Even after we issue a final plat, we will still monitor it. And it kicks down into a finer set of inspections because the building codes department, the building inspection department will then go out, and we then get to play another part. My inspectors will go out and look at the yard, and we'll make sure that the yard is now still stabilized. And typically you're going to get further and further along with this because now you're not dealing with winter rye or anything like that. You're dealing with sod and a nice pretty yard. So once we sign off on that and they passed all their inspections, including side yard, rear yard swales, you name it, and we sign off on it, it's good to go. From that point on, it's 100% responsibility of the homeowners.
So once you sign up on that, do the homeowners usually have to plant grass in these detention areas, or is that the responsibility? And maybe the word stabilize is what you're saying, but I don't understand that enough.
Currently, the detention areas are a different animal. The detention areas must be fully constructed and completed and stabilized.
Does that include grass?
That's include stabilization is grass.
Okay.
And so those items are completed prior to the homes.
Okay, so let me follow up on that. That's my understanding. So my question is, so the developers have done a great job, they've got it all ready. This phase, or at least these 8 homes in a row, are now up for sale. And it just so happens that someone liked Lot 1, someone else liked Lot 8, okay, and they buy it, and they are now responsible for that area all the way back. However, it could be 3 or 4 years before the lots in the middle get bought, and then those owners become responsible.
Who would be responsible for that? Suppose you have 2 lots. That's not unusual, it wouldn't sell. And I've got this section over here behind my house, he's got his section over behind his house. We're responsible for those sections. But who is responsible for the 2 lots that nobody owns? To me, it would be the developer until they're sold.
Correct. And if there's a final plat, let's face it, if somebody owns Lot 1 and Lot 8, there's a final plat. We've got that far along. So anybody that owns lots 2 through 7 could easily be the developer, or the developer could have sold those lots to you and you and you and you, and we just haven't done anything. Well, if there is an issue with erosion or a code enforcement violation, that is simply taken from the information given from the PVA as the current landowner. And then that current landowner is notified whether it, again, is the developer or someone they've sold it to.
So basically, if once you do the final plat, and I have 3 or 4 people, next to that, and several people lots aren't sold, the homeowners around that area are responsible for the whole thing.
If they own that property.
If they don't, then
If they don't own it, then the adjoining landowners do not.
the developer.
If I may, I think what Mr. Claus is
Who
trying
would
to
be
say,
responsible for the lots that aren't sold?
whoever owns it,
Huh?
whoever owns it,
Whether it's
Yeah.
developer
whether it's developer,
Yeah,
whether
it could be a
it's
developer, or if
individual
the
people,
developer
whether
has
it's
sold it,
whoever.
and nobody has built on it yet. I mean, I'm just saying there could be
Right, but
multiple
that's what
ways
he's
an
saying,
entity
is that
could
There
arrive.
may be times when it's not sold for 4 years.
Mhm.
So who is responsible? The developer?
The owner at the time of the violation.
So would what if they could not get to it because you got owners, you got homeowners now on both sides who loan?
But can't you just use the same lot that they
guess
haven't
it could go
sold,
across
just
the
drive
entire-
right straight
Use
down
the
that
same
lot
lot.
and clean that up and pull it back out?
Same lot on.
Yeah.
All right, good answer, thank you. 3 more questions and we're good. One is, do the detention areas only capture water from the area, from their home in that lot, or do they capture water from multiple areas?
It'll be, that's a big question, but in short, detention areas could capture water from city streets, slopes, the lots. You actually have to take in consideration the entire project. So if you've got 10 acres or 100 acres, you may have to have these things spaced out to where within their little regions of watersheds that they're handling that water runoff. So the answer could be anything, depending upon what that detention area is designed for.
Gotcha. So it's mainly a matter of topography and just.
That's correct.
What's uphill, basically. Okay. So it may seem like an unrelated question, but I think it is very parallel. Is it a good idea to have the homeowners pay for the streetlights and for the streets that are in front of their home?
I have nothing to say about that. I don't know anything about that.
Do you think that would be a good thing for us to pass to start having the homeowners be responsible for paying for the streets and the streetlights and for the maintenance of those?
The streetlights are paid by the developer.
Yeah. All that would
When
be
they're
by
put
the
in,
developer.
but the
Yeah,
ongoing-
there's an assessment that's done by the finance department, and they essentially count the light poles, if you will, and then they apply an equation. I don't pretend to know how their math works. Their math is way above my math, but I generally will let them know how many streetlights are in a subdivision or phases or as it grows. And then they do an assessment, and then that assessment is dispersed amongst all of the lots. And whatever equation that works out to be is what they are assessed for streetlights.
We have an ordinance for that.
That is correct. And I don't know a whole lot about it other than that I can provide them with how many streetlights are out there existing. I know that. I don't know how the rest of it actually works out, how they do that.
Okay, so it's fair to say that we don't charge a homeowner for the street light that's in front of them, and if it goes out, we don't charge him to fix it. Same is true for our roadways. We don't charge him to repave it. Not counting our taxes in general, but we don't charge each homeowner for those things, right?
That assessment, I would assume, takes into consideration your question, but not knowing, I couldn't attest to that fact. I do know that we have a contract with Kentucky Utilities that, you know, if a street light is damaged or out or what have you, then all we do is call them and they go fix that.
Right.
The other two power companies, we do not have a contract with.
Okay, so I think you have the obvious question, what does that got to do with this? I'm trying to understand. What that I think has to do with this is the difference between the own lot that's attached to your house and us now making homeowners responsible for the detention areas is those detention areas are actually part of a water management infrastructure that we are required to put in by KRS and by our local ordinances. And so, as was just mentioned today, those don't just serve that house, they actually serve as an infrastructure that may get water from all over the neighborhood.
But it's what you buy into when you buy the house. You know that that's there, and you know that you're responsible. Okay, so you got two ways. You can do it like you all were left, same way with the recreation areas, or you can extend the lots and go ahead and make the homeowner, when he buys the lot, responsible, right?
That would be correct, and personally, I would like the larger lot in town. I
So
think
there
that
are
would be
advantages.
nice.
Okay,
Two.
so those are certainly two options. I don't disagree with you. All right, are you aware of any other communities that have used the plan we're putting forth today and that have used it successfully?
I don't know of any communities recently, but I can attest to the fact that that's how it's been done in the past, repetitively throughout many communities, and we actually were a precursor to try to put them on their own tracks, and seemed to have been working out pretty good until Heritage Place came along. So, being a lesson learned, this is a reflection of a lesson learned. So we're not, again, trying to deter HOA regulations, just solve a problem that seems to be a big one, as you well know. And as far as tonight goes, that's all we're after.
And we're gonna let the homeowner decide whether they want it or not.
Whether or not, if they want that lot, buy it. If they do not, there's plenty more.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, I appreciate it, and I really appreciate you responding and answering some of these. I'm assuming you didn't necessarily reach out and take a poll or anything like that on this, but I also know you said in the last meeting, you've gotten a lot of feedback over the years from homeowners and developers and everybody, and so you kind of tapped into that to come up with the best solution, so no question about that. But
Well, it's gonna go to commission, so the
Commission.
commission's gonna go through it.
Yeah.
They're the final word,
right.
so the commission's gonna really go into it,
By
decide whether they
the
like it or
commission,
don't like it.
which commission's that?
City commissioners.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so just at the same time, I think we would want to avoid maybe something that could create a deterrence to selling homes and make it harder for developers to sell. So just to get some feedback from random people, I just put out the basics of what we shared in the work study on Facebook, and we got 31 responses in the space of a few hours. And I just wanted to share 2 or 3 with you that highlighted some different responses and then give you the total. So one person said, and this was reflected in a couple, this solution sounds like just a handout to developers to be less responsible. And you've got copies of this. Another one said, I would definitely not buy a property with this kind of encumbrance on it. Another one said, this would make me less likely to buy that property. I also wonder if potential buyers will be informed before they purchase, or would
Yes.
this just be a buyer beware type situation, that it's completely up to the buyer to investigate? or would there be some kind of required disclosure?
Yeah,
Even you all brought it
Yeah,
up.
they should investigate it anyway
Yeah.
for them to buy it.
All of those provisions would be posted in clear sight of your final plat. It would decorate the detention areas, have any notation, general notes associated with it, such as
View the
the,
property too, you'll see it there.
yes.
And it should be in your deed.
Mhm.
So you need to read your deed.
Yeah,
And
there,
you need to look at the property.
there are endless amounts of plats in the Madison County Courthouse that will indicate said lots 1 through whatever are responsible for detention basin 1. Said lots 92 through 100 are responsible for detention basin 2. You can sit over there all day long and find those.
There'll be some people that want that lot. There'll be some people that will want that lot because it's bigger. The maintenance is probably not that much on it, et cetera, so.
And it's a demographic, you know. You take a new couple, 25 years old, got a baby on the way. Well, he can mow anything he wants, and he wants that because he's able. But if you're 75 looking to retire, that's not the lot for you. And diversity, if you want to give diversity, well, I don't know what else you can ask for diversity. We have plenty of lots for sale. I can tell you that.
Get a small lot.
We're getting ready to see some more here in a moment. So,
Well, the numbers were out of 31 responses, 29 were clearly that they would be less likely to buy it or would not be interested at all, and 2 said they might be with some caveats. So that's not scientific in any way, but that's just the facts of what they responded. So basically, to close here, I just would like to offer some possible options that I think would have met the concerns that my neighborhood's had over the years, but also some of the other people that we talked to. And this, you all know I've been up here as a spokesperson for our neighborhood, also for Old Town Branch. But I also run our Facebook page, which has over 300 members on it. So I see quite a lot of feedback on these issues, and it's not just, here's what I think. So I'm somewhat representing it. So some options, I do think there was a strong support for having the developers either to be ongoingly responsible, and if not that, everyone who's buying into this, they're putting forth and buying maybe their biggest investment of their lifetime when they buy their house, for most people, I think, unless they're super wealthy or whatever. But the developers, on the other hand, they are making a profit on this. And as I was reading up on this, on an average 100 home developer just doing the land is going to make in Kentucky maybe $1 to $4 million. And if you're actually building, it might be 6, 8 million if you're actually building the houses and selling those as well. So one of the things that I heard people say is, look, if they're making that much money, can they not kick back a little bit to, if they're not going to be ongoingly responsible once their responsibility ends? One option would be, for instance, they kick in $100 per home. Maybe it's not even required till the subdivision, that phase is finished, and then they turn that over to an entity that the city overlooks, and not overlooks, but manages, and then can handle those things properly, as opposed to people handling it piecemeal with their lawnmower or hiring a guy, that kind of thing. So that was one option, and so you could dedicate that as a public entity. Another one is you could have a recorded maintenance agreement with the developer. This is number 2.
I don't think the developer's going to want to do maintenance, not in perpetuity. I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh, I think they don't.
And I
want
think
to,
it would be
agree.
unfair to the developer, too. I think the
Say that
homeowner
again?
has
I'm
some,
sorry?
no, I think the homeowner has some responsibility
Right.
to keep the land up and the property up. I don't think it's just the developer. I mean, he's developed a place and he has a right to ask you if you want a homeowners association. I agree, so that the work can be spread out and the cost can be spread out. But the developer, that's almost an impossibility to get him to do it in perpetuity. I mean, you can't do that.
I understand what you're saying. I think you've accurately said what the developers want to do. So maybe something that meets in the middle and doesn't just let the developers get all the profits out and then take off with no responsibility. might be that out of those profits, as they make sale, they are able to put forward a small amount that goes into a fund that then allows them to be properly cared for, not by a patchwork of different citizens who have varying degrees of responsibility, but by a single entity that hires a professional.
But who is gonna do that?
I don't think you're gonna find a developer to put
So,
anything
no,
into
that's, I'm
it.
not saying the developer, I'm just saying if we require
Well,
that.
I understand it, but who's gonna just take out the money?
Oversee it.
Who's gonna
Oversee it.
account for all that? The developer's not gonna be responsible for that. He's gonna put so much money in, and that's gonna run out. So there's only gonna be, and the government can't be responsible for that, planning and zoning can't. So, I mean, I could see where a homeowners association could talk to developer ahead of time and talk about so much money, you know, when the project's done. But you have to have some group with the homeowners to negotiate that, I would think. That's not a government problem. That's
So-
what you're trying to make. It's not a government problem.
Yeah, did we not have an issue, just as an example, Lexington, as you know, recently was either sued or sanctioned by the federal government because they had major stormwater issues that went on and were not taken care of properly? And are you aware of that?
I
Kevin
don't know
might
all the ramifications of
They
that.
had to sign a consent decree for millions and millions of dollars of upgrades because they had not properly managed their stormwater management.
Well, then
And,
that should have been caught when they put it in.
It should be, and that's why we're having meetings like this, so when we make decisions, that we are forward-looking at what could happen if it's not managed properly.
Well, but it is gonna be managed properly because Kevin's gonna look at it, right?
Lexington's issue was a deficiency in their MS4 and stormwater program. We do not have one.
Yeah, I didn't
We're
think we had.
currently up to date and are fine.
So what so I understand what he's saying, and I understand your point. What I'm saying is that going forward, if we implement this, we are trusting that a cross-section of neighbors who may or may not know each other and have varying degrees of how much they'll know about how to take care of it, because some of it might just be related to mowing, but some of it might be related to having to clear certain things so they don't get clogged up, so you don't get flooding, those kind of things. Richmond
What-
Utilities has one of those in our neighborhood that, you know, it's not just mowing it, it also has an outlet, so if it gets too high, then it goes through the outlet so it doesn't flood out the wrong way. Those kind of things, this,
Like you had. You're talking about like you had.
there is one of those in our.
Yeah, but that's because it wasn't taken care of correctly. Wasn't that right? If it had been taken care of correctly by the homeowners, then you wouldn't have had that trouble.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
That wasn't the developer's fault.
No, this was the developers who used a legal maneuver to get
Well,
out of
later
their
on.
responsibility for it.
Till later on, the shell company.
Yeah.
But they're still not responsible for the maintenance of those areas. You've got no claim on them, the way I understand it, unless it's in your development.
And I'm not bringing that back up. I'm
No,
just saying, yeah.
but you brought this up several times. If it's in your deed, that, you know, or in the agreement that you signed when you bought that home, there's got to be something that says whether you're supposed to take care of that stuff. Is there?
There's not, yeah, certainly not in ours, no.
Does it say the developer's responsible?
It does, and then it says, if we vote to have an HOA, then the HOA can take it over.
Okay, so you need an HOA.
Well, yeah, but the problem is they set the threshold at 75%. And if you ask the neighborhood, hey, would you like to vote for getting the responsibility and liability for this 20 acres and mowing it and paying for it? When a lot of them came in, and I know this firsthand talking to them, you know, one of the reasons we bought here is because you don't have an HOA and we really don't like HOAs. You know, I'm not saying they're good or bad, I'm just saying that was the agreement they had, and you brought up a good point, was that in their deed restriction, it's not in their deed restriction,
Who set it up that way?
the developer. Yeah. And I think that's what he's been trying to work on solving, is making sure that we don't have an orphan type situation that just naturally develops because there's a crack allowed to be there where no one's responsible. then that's what happens. But again, that was our situation.
No, I understand that.
I'm not trying to make the
I
argument
just-
for us, I'm trying to make it for
It just seems to me that when you're in a subdivision, and you've got a group of people, and that you have a recreation area that's meant for everybody, that everybody should participate. Everybody should either put money in, or they should help mow, or should do something. It doesn't seem to me, that's a community problem, really, to me. Don't you think so, Gary?
You're talking for the recreational part?
Yes.
Yes.
That's a community problem. I mean, that's,
part,
it
we're talking about
it just
doing away
seems
with
to me
recreation.
that you're not taking responsibility for the area. I mean,
But again,
if
we're
I
not
was in
talking
your
about-
area, I would either vote for a homeowner association, but if I didn't like it, I would then contribute so much money, or I'd bring my lawnmower down there and help mow the grass. But nobody can help you do that. I think that's just been a bad situation with you all. But I think Kevin goes over everything cautiously now, and this is one reason we're changing things.
Well, again, appreciate your time very much, I appreciate you listening, and would love to see us come up with a solution that doesn't leave this open to a patchwork of homeowners and lets the developers squeeze out all the profits and then take off, when they could be, we think that there is a mechanism that could be developed. So that, last point, I promise. We do actually have a stormwater, some kind of tax, right? What do you call that?
No, we're working on a stormwater fee. There are funds allotted, but I believe it's in the works to be utilized for storm infrastructure and things. Right now, it's just a set amount, and it's not to the point to where we can,
It's just a regular tax that we all pay? Is that right?
if I'm not mistaken, it's attached to the water meters,
Yeah.
perhaps. I haven't looked at that in some time, but I'm curious as it grows, what we would be able to do with that.
Gotcha. So as an example, that is something that, to me, it would be super simple to tell the developers, part of your responsibility in developing this is to set this up for, to run well in the future, and we will have $100 fee on each house. You pay that at the end of each phase, and then that goes into the same fund that the fee you're talking about goes into, and then the city could manage these, make sure they're being properly taken care of, could get commercial people who know how to do it, and if they need to be checked on, then get checked on regularly. And by the way, if we do this, if we go forward with this, they're gonna end up being responsible for it anyway, because if any of these are overgrown and the neighbor's not taking care of that part that's in the detention area, then our ordinance is already gonna deal with that, right? It'd still be covered by our ordinance that says you have to maintain your property.
Yeah.
So the city's gonna be responsible for that anyway, in the
Well, I
sense that.
suspect there'll be fines then, if you're not
Right.
Yeah,
taking care of it.
fines.
Right, yeah. So
More
what I'm
codes
saying is-
thing.
yeah. And that will only be, that only comes after people call and complain, hey, this neighbor's letting this stuff grow all over. Or if they let it grow up in such a way that it clogs up the drain and that doesn't work properly, and then that causes an issue. And I don't think that's the best way for us to find out. But I really do appreciate your time very much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next on the,
Are we all allowed to talk about this topic, please?
well, it really wasn't turned out to be that way. It was just more,
This affects my community.
Sure, but go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead then. It's in your community. State your name, please.
My name is Erica Deering. I'm a new homeowner. I'm a mom of 3 small children, and I just happened to go because we're having a lot of issues with some of the things, and I saw it, and I'm just interested. So a couple things is the recreational space is really important for families. We have 3 subdivisions in our area that's brand new. It's about 50% sold. I'm talking about the Ball Home on Arbor Ridge, and then there's another one by Briggs. It's like a lot of houses, and then there's a small one coming up that way. And there's a lot of children. Just on our street, there's 16 small children, 8 and under. And we have a huge recreational space right behind my property and several other people's properties. Briggs owns it. My company is Ball Homes, so they can't help me with that. But I called zoning maybe a couple weeks ago just to see like what's the regulation on this green space, and they said, well, it's up to the developer to like fix it, put a walkway, grass, trees, make it look nice. But and I said, well, what about like play equipment and stuff like that? Because where I came from for sales. I also lived in New Jersey, and every neighborhood has a small little community space. And it doesn't seem like Briggs has any plans on making that really useful. And so I'm concerned that if this gets passed, then that space is gonna be used for things that are not helpful for the community, because it's just gonna go into plats, and then nobody can really use the space because it's not graded properly. I mean, it's a big, and that's one of the things I just wanted to put my voice up. Like, I don't know how many people have small children, if that's like a thing, or like to walk around. But we have tons of dog walkers in our neighborhood, and a little walking trail and the green space would be wonderful. But if somebody's not holding the developer accountable, they're not gonna put a ton of money in it. All of those houses are rental houses, and then they're gonna be sold off eventually. But we're all homeowners on this other side of the ridge, and that like matters to us because we've really invested in the property. And so I'm nervous that, yeah, we have Lake Reba, that's awesome, but there's not very many other spaces that I've found. I've only been here for a year, that I've found that I can just bring the kids during the day. Usually schools you can't go during the day because it's, you can't interfere with their school stuff. And so like, that's a pretty big area. What would, just drawing the law all the way down to those homeowners, first of all, they're renters and they're not even sodding it or grassing it. They're only doing up a little bit toward their section of the backyard, and the rest is just like weeds and stuff. And so that doesn't seem like a good use of the space. I think the community would really grow and people would get to meet there, and children would develop more play habits instead of staying inside. So I just wanted to put my voice into that. And then also, you had mentioned about the slope, like grading the slope, like your office signs off on that. I don't know, like, what's it supposed to be like, but right now the slopes have been graded like 3 times, but with the rain, even last night, I got 4 inches of sediment in my backyard covering my grass. So I'm one of those homeowners who took, my construction company didn't seed, and out of the graciousness of the superintendent, because I was bothering him, he had a skid steer smooth it out because there was rivets. My youngest son was like getting buried in the rivets in our backyard, and it wasn't being graded properly. And so everything on the hill, all of the water coming from 2 different parts is like forming a water drainage of like 12 feet during the storm over my property. And so there's no silt lines or anything like that. And so I seeded, we took our time and money and effort and seeded, but most of those other properties did not, and now they're in a big trouble because now there's been erosion. And so my father-in-law is like taking his ATV with the tiller on it and like trying to help him out, and we're gonna reseed this week. But erosion's a big problem in our subdivision. And the drainage, the stormwater drainage is like, I have pictures on my phone of like, from here to you in my backyard, a river flowing. And so it's big enough to where like rocks are being put down in the sediment. So it's a pretty big deal that it's not being graded properly, and I don't have a say. Like I'm looking on the internet for Briggs Construction Residential so I can talk to somebody. I'm getting my realtor to try to like connect with somebody about that. So to put something like that on the homeowner, I don't have big equipment. I just bought a home. We're like almost debt free. We're like the American dream, but we bought a home and we're really struggling to pay extra on the mortgage, we're not gonna have a ton of extra income in our budget to put toward extra pieces of land of like doing, I've been looking up, do I do a French drain? But like a 4-inch drain is not gonna do anything with that amount of water. So, it's just, this seems like people are not wanting to take responsibility and they want to put it on the homeowner, but do the homeowners have the knowledge and the ability to actually do that properly? Because they can't rent big equipment. Like, I'm gonna rent a dump truck or, you know, a grading, any of that stuff, I can't. But I got my father-in-law's ATV and that has been working by God's grace. So I just wanted to put that input into your consideration about doing away with the responsibility of the drainage. And also, you know, those contractors are moving a lot of land and they're really shaping the land and it looks a lot different and it's not stable. It's not stable right now. They're not putting grass down, seed down in a timely fashion. They've been grading it so there's loose sediment every couple months, but then rocks are showing after a rain. And so you know that's all coming down into the valley and into people's properties. But those homeowners, they don't have a course of action. So I would like help, and I'm nervous that if this gets changed, we don't have a course of action. So,
What subdivision you in?
I'm in Arbor Ridge.
Kevin?
I know where she's at. Is there construction taking place upstream from you? Yeah.
In my backyard, and it's a huge, I mean, every day, well, because I'm a homeschool mom, so we watch the skid steers and everything, and they've done it like 4 times, and they're moving so much dirt, but also Wall Homes is doing it for the last 2 properties on the cul-de-sac. Like a big piece of land was chunked off to push somewhere else, and then they dump trucked it more dirt in, but it's like not drain friendly, like nothing has been done. And
What is your address, Erica?
7044 Arbor Ridge Drive.
We'll stop out and take a look. I've got a sneaky suspicion what's going on there. Not to mention we're in monsoon season, but
It was
what
also
you're
bad in fall too.
what you're describing is some things we're dealing with right now, and I'll send someone out tomorrow to take a look at what's going on there, and if we can remedy anything upstream to help keep that from happening until the place is stabilized, we'll do so.
That's helpful, thank you.
You're welcome.
But as far as a recreational space, I mow a lot, I push mow, and we also have a riding mower, but like you said, it's our responsibility to like mow all the way down. And we would love a green space, but I can't mow that. Maybe the HOAs on both sides can work out a deal, but the HOA on the break side, they didn't even want to maintain the mailboxes. They did like a central mailbox unit. And because they didn't want to maintain any of the grounds around the mailbox, they cut the mailbox like metal stands and moved it out from the awning. And somehow that made it them not responsible for sharing the maintenance on that. And so it's like the HOAs, first of all, we're getting pinched by the HOAs about all kinds of nitpicky things, and yet they're not advocating for us. And our HOA is a lot smaller than that other one. And so there's, you know, to put it onto the HOA or the homeowners or this and that, like, I kind of think that at least the recreational area in the storm drain, retaining ponds and stuff, we just need help. Like, I don't think we have enough money in our HOA to be able to fund such a big thing, but it would beautify our development. People would, I mean, I just know, I have put an Arbor Day, I'll get you trees. I'll mulch around the trees, it'll be beautiful in a few years, but if we just let that space grow up into weeds, and it's just not helpful. It's a lot of invasive weeds too, so it's not even environmentally friendly. So I just, thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda. Oh, that's right, we got to vote on this, right, I'm sorry. It's been gone so long. Can I get a motion on this, please?
Make a motion, we approve the new subdivision regulations for homeowners association, green space requirements, and recreation areas.
I'll second it.
Okay. Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Miles, Commissioner Estelle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a preliminary plat for the Carriage Place.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Jay Webb, Central Kentucky Land Surveying, here to represent Carriage Place Phase 3. This is the preliminary plat showing all the utilities, lot lines, et cetera, of the 51 acres roughly that you changed the zone to, I think it was January
Yeah.
25, if I'm not mistaken. We have 138 lots proposed. At this point, we are showing green space and recreation areas until the ordinance changes. I'm sure when we come back with the final plat, we'll amend that down to whatever the current ordinance would be. It's pretty
Okay.
much an extension. Carriage Place Drive comes in right now, if you've been in there. There's a large storm drain, small stream runs through the property. This will be the next section past that, once you cross the big culvert. This will be the next piece of the farm.
Okay.
I think all the lots meet minimum requirements. Corner lots are bigger, as typical. We had just a few issues, I think, technical issues I believe we've cleared up. CB units are shown, zone lines are shown. There will be, in a future phase, we have a note that there will be a right-of-way to adjoin the property to the north, to be able to access that at some point.
Okay. You
Ken, anything else?
got any questions on that? Kevin, you got any?
No, Mr. Webb addressed a few comments that I felt necessary to come before you guys. The big deal was the extension of a street for interconnectivity, desperately seeking that possibility maybe in my lifetime to get around to Pumpkin Run and around that way. But in conversation with Mr. Webb, that actually will come in the next phase, phase 4, if you will, for the property to the east. And I don't have a problem with that in light of development. You know, Rome's not built in a day, but I did require a note on this particular plan that is to be done on the next phase. So a friendly reminder and a assurance that we'll get our interconnectivity. So essentially what you're seeing is if you've got your plat in front of you, that little corner right there is next to the temporary cul-de-sac. So as that road comes out, somewhere in this area, we'll have a stub out, which then could sneak us around into Pumpkin Run. So as long as we have that, I'm fine with the layout, and Mr. Webb has provided everything that I needed here. And if you so entertain a motion to approve, I would only recommend approve based on staff approval.
Okay. Anyone else? Not, get a motion, please, on this?
Okay, I'll make a motion, we approve the preliminary plat for the Carriage Gate, or Carriage Place, rather.
Get a second?
Second it.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Miles, Commissioner Estelle.
Yes,
Thank you for your time.
thank you. Okay, other business?
You don't have any other business?
Director's report?
Just an update for our department. We're working on our website. We have a brand-new website, richmondky.gov. If you haven't looked at it, I'd recommend checking it out. But we're in the works of rearranging some things, making it public-friendly. We're actually creating, working with the IT department, and they have been instrumental in making things that we want come true. So there's, for example, if you look on there now, a brand new fireworks button. If you just click it, it will automatically download everything the public needs to fill out. And when they hit send, not only does it send to us, but directly to my admin that deals with it. So we're moving into short-term rental applications. We're moving into roadside sales applications, and they're going to make us those little fancy buttons that's going to make our life easier. But we're certainly working on the website, and I'm a little excited about how that's going to look. Currently, it will not look like it does if you look at it tonight. But definitely excited about how easy things are going to get for the public.
What about short-term rental? Short-term rentals, since the new thing is rentals that's gone through, what, any problems with those so far?
No, the state since passed the little rule that, you know, they can basically go anywhere they want, or proximity. But as far as that, everything else in our regulation sticks. As far as the inspections, the parking requirements, all those things, it did not affect those. And we got a monumental task on figuring those things out, and as well as monitoring them with help from tourism and finance and all sorts of folks. We've got on top of it, and we do have a current record that we know of all short-term rentals, and it's sort of out there on how we're dealing with those through enforcement. If those taxes aren't paid, those 3% taxes and things, we're in close harmony with finance and tourism to monitor that. They help us with that. We're the enforcement mechanism. So when they say we have a violation, then they let us know, and then we react. So essentially, we take in the applications, we keep a spreadsheet tracking all of these, where they're at, when they were created, and we deal with the violation, if any. Other than that, if things go well, they apply through us, they get set up, they get their business license, and they just pay their annual taxes through the finance department, and life goes on. Other than that, my team, we're settling into our new positions in light of John's retirement. We have a new fella in the GIS role, and I've got a new admin in the department as well. So everybody's getting used to something new, and we're all falling right into place, and it's working out very well. But other than that, if there's any other questions, I'll be happy to answer.
But any question? Get a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Aye.
I didn't realize that,
You doing all right? I didn't think you were gonna vote.